Hey y'all, Andrew Bateman here with GCK Kayaking Outdoors, coming to you from a nice little peaceful alcove, escaping the wind on a tributary of Cow Bayou in Bridge City, Texas. And so, with that, I wanted to pose a question to you, which is something that I've had several interactions with people in this community about, who are either, especially primarily, thinking about getting into kayaking or just starting out. But it's something that we all should take stock of, no matter our skill level. And competency level and any of that stuff. So, of course, one thing I hear pretty often is people are terrified of alligators, and if you have no experience with them, I certainly understand, and a lot of media material on alligators and quote alligator attacks and things like that don't help the matter. So that's understandable. Y'all know my stance on that, but again, that has come with experience. Of course, a lot of people are nervous about coming out of their kayak. They're nervous about wind, maybe not being able to complete the route, their stamina levels, etc. So there are a number of things, and these are very good, important, and healthy things to think about. Uh, we want to be very realistic with our limitations, because as amazing as this hobby, and I want to call it something more than a hobby, but for lack of a better word, as amazing as this hobby is, it does come with certain risks. And so anytime we take stock, whenever anybody comes out with me, especially somebody brand new, sometimes you get somebody who wants to prove something, or maybe show some bravado or something like that, and that's not what we need to be doing out here. So always be honest, first and foremost, with yourself, and that way you're going to get the most out of this. So what I wanted to ask y'all is what your primary concerns are, what your skill levels, your competency levels are, what some of your more frightening experiences maybe have been, the things that have taught you the most. In fact, there's a saying that I ascribe to out of experience that says trauma teaches, and that is indeed the case. I've had those experiences both in kayaking and motorcycling and things like that, which I'll share more at another date. But I'd love to hear yours. And to get this conversation started, the thing that I'll say that I have the most concern about, a lot of people say, aren't you terrified of the gators? And while I'm diligent around them, that is far from my main concern. It is wind and wake that frighten me the most. Um, and some of that, some of what frightens us is the unknown, but for me, this frightens me because of things that I have experienced and thankfully have not turned out as bad as they could have. So, my first experience was, and again, here's where skill level matters. I'll be honest here and take you to some non-flattering memories I have. I was on Cedar Bayou, and I didn't understand how to really deal with wake. And there were some tugboats with some big barges coming through, and I almost got swamped a couple of times. I took on a lot of water, and that kind of freaked me out. Now, it wouldn't have been a huge deal, as I could have probably gotten to the bank, but anyway, there was that. But I'll tell you the one that got me far worse, or was a little more concerning and disconcerting, I'll say, than that one. For those of you that know Tabbs Bay, which is right there off of the 146 bridge in Baytown, Texas, you have the ship channel right there. Then you have that section with the oil wells, the pump jacks out on the water. I was down around, and I believe it's Hog Island. I could be wrong about that. There's a couple of them out there. I was kind of at the crest of that island, thinking that that would keep me from the wake of some of the tankers. And these tankers were far off. I would guess about a mile off. So I didn't think it'd be too much of a big deal. I figured the breakwaters, or rather the wake would break before it got to me. It wouldn't be too substantial. And even if it was, it would hit the other side of the island. Um, but I was proven wrong when I was sitting there, and then you just heard this rush of water coming. The tanker was already way down the channel, nowhere near me. But this wake was still coming so strong that it shot around the tip of this island, and it slingshotted me backwards. I don't know what it was. I mean, it felt to me like 100 miles an hour. I don't know if you remember any of you that went to Astroworld, that Grease Lightning ride that would shoot you backwards super fast, high G experience, all that kind of stuff. It felt like everything was just a blur. That's probably more extreme than it was. But I will say, I don't know how in the world I stayed upright, because I'd like to say it was fancy paddle work. Above all, I say it was intervention, because had I gone over the way that water was rushing, I truly, not trying to be dramatic, I don't know that I would have come back up, or I could have certainly at the very least sustained some pretty substantial injuries. So since then, I have not and will not play around with wake. I will not be going out in the ship channel uh, to make content around tankers and things like that, because it's no joke, and it could be a challenge to your longevity if you get careless around those. So there's that. The other, I have been out in some. I've gone out twice in windy conditions that I shouldn't have. The first time I was stubborn and I kept going, and I almost wound up just smashing into some rocks that would have probably just beaten me senseless. Um, it didn't. Thankfully, I did get back to the launch, but it took about 3 hours to go what would have normally taken me about 20 minutes, going against the wind. Plus, I've got bad shoulders, torn up rotator cuffs, and all that. So again, that goes back to our limitations. Um, And the other time I went out on Lake Charlotte, this was pretty recently, I just wanted to get the video footage so bad, and I got out there about a mile out, and I was like, this isn't happening. I know this. I'm taking on water. It's not worth it. So there's where experience teaches. So we do have fears because of both what's unknown, and then thankfully we also have lessons from the things we've experienced. But one thing about this channel I want to do is obviously to promote this wonderful pastime safely, and so we can share our experiences so that folks may draw from those and not have to experience some of the scary things themselves. Sorry for the plane going over. But with that, I'd like to hear from y'all. What are some of y'all's experiences? What are some kind of scary moments that you've had? And what advice would you give to paddlers who are perhaps either not used to paddling certain demographics or certain classes, and then also who are maybe just starting out and not used to it at all? So thank you all so much. I'd love to have your participation in this community. Y'all take care. God bless.